a kind of loneliness that lives inside a person who was never truly seen. A loneliness of being alone in a room. But the loneliness of standing in a crowd, performing, speaking, and feeling absolutely nothing on the inside. A quiet where warmth should be. That kind of loneliness does not make a person soft, hard. It makes them build. And what they build is a self. A constructed, polished, obstructable version of a self. A version that cannot be hurt. A version that does not need. A version that is always the most important person in any room. Deep in their history, they learned that the moment you stop being important, this is where it begins. Not with cruelty, not with evil, with a child who needed to be loved and received something much colder in return. We use the word narcissist like it is a verdict, like it explains everything and forgives nothing. What is the asks a harder question? Not what happened to this person first. Because behavior, this entrenched, this systematic to everyone around it, does not arrive out of nowhere. It is built, layer by layer, year by year, wound by wound. When a child grows up in an environment where love is conditional, fractures, not loudly, not in a single moment, but slowly, the way a river carves through rock. Quietly, persistently, original shape is gone entirely. In some homes, love was tied to achievement. When you performed, and invisible when you were simply yourself. In others, a parent's hunger consumed the space where the child's needs should have lived, needed to see themselves reflected in their child's success. The child learned something devastating, that they did not exist for themselves, but existed to fill someone else's emptiness. And children are adaptive. Requires adaptation. So, this child, this small, perceptive, deeply feeling person, got a decision below the level of consciousness. They decided that vulnerability was the enemy, people was weakness, that the only safe position in any relationship was above, or cannot be abandoned. If you are above, you cannot be humiliated. If you are above, you are the one who leaves first, who judges first, defines the terms of every interaction. Above means never again having to feel that terrible smallness of being invisible to the people who are supposed to love you most. What the world sees as arrogance is actually armor. What looks like grandiosity is a structure built over a wound so old, so deep, so unprocessed, wearing it has forgotten the wound even exists. A house that catches fire when its owner is very young. The owner does not rebuild the house, they build walls around it. Thick, high, impressive walls. Over time, they add more walls, towers, then gates with locks that only they control. And eventually posing that everyone who passes by admires it. No one asks what is still burning inside. The inner world of someone caught in this pattern. Built over a fire that was never put out. A fire made of shame. A of smallness, of the unbearable memory of being someone who needed love and did not receive it freely. There are those who carry this wound loudly. They dominate every room, collect admiration like it is oxygen, turn every conversation back toward themselves. The faintest criticism as though they have been struck. And there are those who carry it quietly, who seem fragile and misunderstood on the surface, or whispers of how no one truly appreciates them, are different from everyone else, consistently failed to recognize what they are. The expression differs, root is the same. A child who was taught, not through words but through experience, ordinary self was not enough, that they had to be exceptional, or they would be nothing at all. And the way this wound moves through relationships is where the real ache spreads. A person who learned that love is conditional will make love conditional. A person who learned that closeness means being consumed will begin consuming before they can be consumed. Will have no model for staying in discomfort, for truly hearing another person's pain, curious about someone else's inner world, cannot offer those things easily. Even when some part of them longs to, even when somewhere beneath all those walls, small and original, is still reaching out. Well, people who love someone like this know a very specific kind of confusion. Because there are moments where the walls crack just slightly, real and warm comes through. A flash of genuine humour, of unexpected tenderness, eyes that suggests the person you have been hoping for, it's actually in there, unreachable. And those moments are enough to make someone stay for years, us imagining it, buried under decades of architecture designed from the very connection they most deeply need. What in this pattern is to feel perpetually almost there, almost reached. New shapes trying to find the angle that finally makes them feel secure enough to stay open. And they never quite do, not because you are not enough, because the walls were not built against you. After the construction was already complete, if you have given more than you had, tried harder than was sustainable, stayed longer than was healthy, that your love would be the thing that finally healed them. What you felt was real. Of almost connection is one of the most specific, under-acknowledged forms of human sadness, as your failure. You were meeting a wound that was formed long before you arrived. A wound that old, that defended, buried beneath that much architecture, cannot be loved away from the outside. It can only be reached from within, which brings us to the most difficult truth in all of this. Healing for someone caught in this pattern is possible. The hardest psychological journey a person can take requires dismantling the very structure that kept them alive. The smallness. Often that vulnerability is not the enemy. Needing someone is not shameful. They are allowed to exist, not as a monument, but as a human being, imperfect and worthy of love, not because of how impressive they are, because they are here. This does not happen through understanding alone exactly where a wound came from and still be unable to touch it. Healing happens in relationship, in the slow, patient, boundaried experience of being seen without flinching, in moments of genuine reckoning, act of lowering a wall that has been standing since childhood, and discovering that the world does not destroy you for it. It is slow, it is non-linear, but requires a kind of courage. Most people never have to access. Most people never built quite this much to protect themselves. Are someone who recognizes yourself in these words, not with anger but with something quieter, that feels like recognition from a distance. Uncomfortable and unfamiliar, and perhaps a little like grief. Important is already happening. The part of you that can sit with this, tolerate even the whisper of the idea that the way you have moved through the world has sometimes caused harm. Part of you is not the monument. That is the person beneath it, the child who is still there, still present, still, against all odds, reachable, built, were not a character flaw. They were an answer to an impossible question. How do I survive in a world that taught me I was only lovable when I was useful? Impressive. You answered that question the only way a child could. You became a fortress. Worked. You survived. But survival and living are not the same thing. Beneath all that stone and architecture, something in you already knows this. In you is tired of performing, of the loneliness that lives at the very top of every monument. The air is thin, and no one can quite reach you. The walls that kept you safe can, and with enormous care, become doors. Not all at once, not without pain, but the kind of help that requires you to trust someone. Like the most dangerous thing you have ever done. But it is possible. Quietly, humanly possible. And what waits on the other side of those doors is not weakness. Is not the humiliation you feared. Is the one thing the monument was always trying to earn from a distance. What was designed to simulate but could never genuinely hold. Of being truly known. Not for your performance. Not for your impressiveness. For the version of yourself you constructed to be safe. But for the ordinary, imperfect, human person you always were underneath it all. Deserve to be seen from the very beginning. It is not too late for them to finally be